The most unhinged fighter to ever come out of Russia. At first glance, he might look like a maniac straight out of a horror movie, but once he steps into the ring, he becomes something even worse. A force of destruction, tearing through opponents like a rabid beast. Even legendary warriors like Andrei Arlovski and Fedor Emelianenko couldn't survive a single round against him. His name is Vyacheslav Datsik, a man whose life has been split between professional fighting, brutal street brawls, and long stints behind bars. Raised in the cold, merciless heart of Russia, Datsik is more than just a fighter. He's a living nightmare. In this video, we'll introduce you to the scariest, wildest, and most dangerous fighter Russia has ever produced. And of course, we'll show you the insane fight that cemented his reputation. Born in 1980, Vyacheslav Datsik was never a normal child. From a young age, he was a menace, constantly picking fights, causing chaos, and earning himself an unbelievable 16 concussions before even reaching adulthood. His violent nature quickly caught the attention of the police, who kept him on their radar for years. At 18, everything changed when Datsik discovered combat sports. He had finally found a way to channel his aggression, a place where he could break bones, crush skulls, and inflict pain without getting arrested. This is the story of a fighter unlike any other. A man too wild for the sport, too dangerous for the streets, and too violent for the prison itself. Datsik had no real technique, no polished skill set, just sheer raw power that made him an unstoppable force. This overwhelming strength earned him the nickname Red Tarzan, a wild man with inhuman toughness. Just a year into his training, he made his professional debut against none other than future UFC champion Andrei "Pitbull" Arlovski. Unlike the street-brawling Datsik, Arlovski had spent his entire life mastering martial arts. He was experienced, disciplined, and far more technically refined than the reckless Russian brawler. The fight began with immediate chaos. The two clashed with wild exchanges, fists flying like sledgehammers. But it quickly became obvious. Arlovski, sculpted in the gym, was leagues ahead of Datsik, who relied purely on instinct. The experience of back alley fights meant nothing against a well-trained warrior. For the entire first round, the Pitbull tore into his opponent, battering him with precision strikes. Datsik, despite his size, looked more like a human punching bag, absorbing brutal shots without any real defense. But just when it seemed like Arlovski had this fight in the bag, everything changed in an instant. In a moment of sheer brutality, Datsik summoned every ounce of his monstrous strength, loaded it into his fist, and landed a single, devastating punch. In the blink of an eye, Arlovski's world shattered. He hit the canvas unconscious, sent on a sudden and unexpected journey through the realm of nightmares. In his debut fight after crushing such a strong opponent, Datsik confidently set out to conquer the peaks of MMA. But unlike other fighters, this crazy Russian robbed stores in his spare time. Soon he was declared insane and put in a psychiatric hospital, but he escaped from there and illegally arrived in Norway. In Norway, Datsik was found sane and arrested before being deported to Russia. He spent a total of 9 years behind bars and was released in 2019. Once Vyacheslav was released, he immediately returned to fighting, but he no longer looked as imposing as he did in his youth. Because of his reputation, no organization wanted to accept the red-haired Tarzan. But Vyacheslav still got his chance and finally fully returned to the fight. Although he looked like an angry troll after his prison sentence, he still had explosive power in his fists. He confidently knocked out any opponent,
В любую секунду.
but his wild nature always made itself known. Tarzan was like a wild beast that entered the ring as if on the hunt, but soon, the brother of legendary Fedor Emelianenko came to destroy this crazy fighter. Russian sports legend Alexander Emelianenko was the undisputed favorite, as he had fights with such legends as Mirko Cro Cop, Fabricio Werdum, and George Barnett. The wild fighters seemed to have no chance.
Желаю удачи.
И мы сейчас станем свидетелями того, как они наконец-таки согласно правилам.
However, Tarzan retired the legend in just 10 seconds.
Не, в боковой сейчас будет.
Вот это попадание действительно бывает Александра Емельяненко.
Улыбается Вячеслав Датсик, как понимаешь, что он...
Since the technically skilled fighters couldn't even last one round with Tarzan, the organization decided to give him an equally crazy opponent. This jacked giant's name is Geronimo dos Santos, and he is called the ring chef because he turns each opponent into a champ.
Вот это поворот! Ваш прогноз был пророческим, да?
At the press conference, cocky dos Santos tried to break his opponent's spirit by intimidating him. But he didn't expect Datsik's level of insanity to be much higher. The two wild fighters were about to find out who was the most ferocious and intimidating rival. These mad beasts seemed equal to each other, but in the wildlife, only the strongest one survives. As the fight began, Datsik showed his opponent, who was at the top of the food chain. However, dos Santos was able to get up thinking he still had a chance to win, but Datsik quickly buried all those hopes.
И Мондрагон сейчас пятится назад, потому что вот коварный у него, да, корявый удар, и падает Мондрагон после...
Dos Santos's confidence was completely gone, and he cowardly refused to continue the fight.
Занимается Вячеслав Датсик. Все, остановка, это победа Вячеслава.
Каких-то сюрпризов, либо, какого-то перформанса.
Datsik showed dos Santos who was the real lion in the pride, and who was the cowardly pussy. Vyacheslav's next opponent was the great Antonio Silva. The Brazilian fighter was nicknamed Bigfoot because of its huge size. The Brazilian was a former UFC fighter, and in addition, not so long ago, he defeated such legendary fighters as Fedor Emelianenko,
Putting it on, the great Fedor Emelianenko,
Travis Brown, and Alistair Overeem.
Brown trying to stick it in shot from Silva. And Brown might be out. Antonio, Bigfoot Silva.
But all that glory was shattered as soon as the bell sounded.
Protect yourself full time and listen to my comments. Touch gloves. Good luck.
И стараться нокаутировать. Может наткнуться на удар на встречный. Боковые.
Datsik gave the legendary Brazilian a carnival of pain and terror.
Он бьет размашисто.
Полетел. Ну как это было в его последнем бою? Почувствовал запах крови Вячеслав.
The wild Russian was so superior to his opponent that he didn't even hesitate to let his defense down. Even huge legs couldn't help Bigfoot escape from the attacks of the red-haired monster. Tarzan mauled Silva as if he'd had his last shot of vodka.
Активно начал второй раунд Вячеслав Датсик. Прям град, шквал ударов принимает Бигфут.
Because of Datsik's powerful blows, the Brazilian was unable to even defend himself and obediently waited for his end.
Много промахов. Я думаю, сейчас если он перетерпит эту серию...
Все, он уже опустил руки. Бигфут опустил руки, пора уже заканчивать.
Рыжий Тарзан Датсик.
And Datsik ended the whole performance with the traditional predator roar. Vyacheslav Datsik is the most extraordinary and furious fighter in the world. Therefore, only one fighter could be a worthy opponent for him, and his name was Tyson. But unfortunately, it was not the king of boxing. It was the king of rooster hairstyles, Tyson Dajan. Unlike the previous opponents, Dajan was much smaller than Datsik, but thanks to his speed, he was able to dictate the pace of the fight to the ball.
Чуть растерялся, Датсика разрывать. Помнит прекрасно.
His swift blows hit the target, but the thick armor of the red-haired Tarzan didn't feel the damage.
Глухим брутальным нокаутом. От него можно ждать реально. Посмотрите, какую гримасу.
But these blows made Datsik angry. And despite being slow, he struck Tyson with a series of lightning-fast blows.
Это работает. Попадает, да?
And soon he sent that rooster's body out of the ring and his mind out of this world. Having proven that some fraud couldn't beat him.
Дижон не стремится моментально скачать. Вернули в ринг камерунца, но решил он не подниматься. Рыжий Тарзан Датсик!
Vyacheslav Datsik is the craziest fighter in Russia, a man who, despite his fat body, destroys his opponents like a wild animal. He could have become one of the greatest fighters in the world, but because of his insanity, he failed to fulfill his potential. Give us a like if you wouldn't want to face him in the ring. Thanks for watching.